Chapter 1: Return to Sandalwood Mansion. The heavy scent of jasmine filled the air as Priya stepped off the train, her suitcase a small island in the sea of bustling passengers around her. The railway station in Mysore was alive with the sounds of greetings and goodbyes. Priya stood still for a moment, her eyes closed, letting the cacophony wash over her. She was home, though it hardly felt like it. It had been over a decade since she last visited India, and her memories of the place were like watercolor paintings left out in the rain, blurred and indistinct. Her phone buzzed in her hand, a message from her Aunt Geeta: "Welcome back, Priya. The driver is waiting outside. Look for the sign with your name." Priya sighed, a mix of relief and apprehension gnawing in her stomach as she navigated her way through the crowd to the exit. There, true to her aunt's word, stood a middle-aged man holding a placard that read Priya Rajput. The drive from the station to Sandalwood Mansion took them through the heart of Mysore, past bustling markets and ancient palaces that stood regally against the modernity encroaching upon them. Priya's eyes were drawn to the familiar yet foreign sights: the grand Mysore Palace, its domes glistening under the afternoon sun, the chaotic charm of Devaraja Market, and the serene beauty of Kakrahali Lake, a tapestry of the city's diverse facets. As they left the city behind, the scenery shifted to lush greenery, the roads lined with towering trees and vibrant flowers. The further they drove, the more isolated the roads became, until they turned onto a gravel path that wound its way through a dense grove of sandalwood trees. The air was cooler here, filled with the sweet, woody scent of sandalwood that Priya had always associated with her childhood. Finally, the car slowed to a stop in front of a large, imposing gate. It creaked open to reveal the sprawling grounds of Sandalwood Mansion, the Rajput family home for generations. The mansion itself was a beautiful relic from the past, its facade a mixture of British colonial and traditional Indian architecture, with ornate balconies and intricate latticework. As Priya stepped out of the car, she felt as though she was stepping into a different era. The mansion, with its ivy-clad walls and stained glass windows, looked like something out of a fairy tale. But as enchanting as the mansion appeared, it was also intimidating, a stark reminder of the weight of her family's history that now rested on her shoulders. She was greeted at the door by her Aunt Geeta, a warm, matronly woman whose smile brought a sense of comfort. "Priya, my dear, you've finally come back," she said, enveloping Priya in a tight hug. "It's been too long." "Too long indeed," Priya replied, her voice catching a bit as she spoke. As they walked through the grand foyer, with its high ceilings and antique chandeliers, Priya's gaze was drawn to the portraits that lined the walls, generations of Rajputs who had lived and breathed within these walls. She felt their eyes on her, felt the weight of their expectations, and wondered if she was ready to unearth the secrets that Sandalwood Mansion held. Secrets that might change her understanding of her family, and herself, forever. Chapter 2: Echoes of the Past. The next morning, Priya awoke to the soft chirping of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves outside her window. She lay in bed for a moment, staring at the high ceiling of her old room, adorned with frescoes that depicted scenes from ancient myths. The room still held traces of her childhood, faded wall stickers of stars and moons, a dusty shelf of old books, and a small desk where she used to write her dreams in a tattered journal. After a light breakfast with Aunt Geeta, who seemed keen on feeding her every delicacy she could think of, Priya decided to begin her exploration of the mansion. As she walked through the hallways, her footsteps echoed softly on the marble floors, each echo a whisper from the past. Her first stop was the library, a vast room filled with rows upon rows of books. The smell of old paper and leather was intoxicating. As she ran her fingers over the spines, she felt a connection to the generations of Rajputs who had once stood where she was standing, lost in their own thoughts and studies. In the corner of the library, Priya noticed a heavy, carved wooden chest. Curious, she approached it and found it unlocked. Inside, she discovered a collection of diaries and letters, neatly tied with ribbons, each bundle marked with a year. The topmost diary was inscribed with her great-grandfather's name, Arjun Rajput. With a reverent touch, Priya opened the diary to the first page. The entries were written in a meticulous hand, detailing daily activities, thoughts, and the occasional reflection on significant events. As she flipped through the pages, a letter tucked between the pages caught her eye. It was dated 1947, around the time of India's independence, a tumultuous period in the country's history. The letter was written by Arjun to his brother, who had moved to England. It spoke of the uncertainty of the times, the struggle between the old ways and the new, and Arjun's hopes for his family's future. But it was the postscript that drew Priya's attention. It hinted at a secret that Arjun had discovered, something that could alter the course of our family forever, yet he had decided to keep it hidden for the sake of their mother's peace of mind. Intrigued, Priya continued to search through the chest, finding more diaries and letters, each adding layers to the family's history she thought she knew. Among these documents, she found her grandmother's diary from the 1960s, which revealed a different side of the stern matriarch she remembered. Her grandmother wrote passionately about her involvement in local politics and women's rights, a pioneer in her time, yet constrained by societal expectations. As the afternoon sun began to cast long shadows across the library floor, Priya sat surrounded by the writings of her ancestors. It was as if the walls of the library were alive with their voices, each telling their part of the Rajput saga. She realized that these diaries and letters were not just remnants of the past, they were pieces of a puzzle she was meant to solve. Determined to uncover the full story behind the cryptic postscript in her great-grandfather's letter, Priya decided to delve deeper. She knew that understanding these secrets would require not just reading between the lines of old texts, but also engaging with the local community, whose histories were deeply entwined with her own family's. That evening, as she discussed her findings with Aunt Geeta, she learned about Rohan, a local historian known for his extensive knowledge of the region's heritage. Aunt Geeta suggested that he might help Priya make sense of the past and its impact on the present. With a new ally potentially in sight and a mystery unfolding before her, Priya felt both daunted and excited. She knew that what she learned next could change everything, and she was ready to face whatever truths lay hidden within the echoes of the past. Chapter 3: The Historian's Tales. Priya spent the rest of the evening feeling restless, the words of her ancestors echoing in her mind. She was determined to unravel the mystery hinted at in her great-grandfather's letter, but she knew that the faded writings alone wouldn't be enough. She needed a guide who could help her navigate the intricacies of local history and lore, someone who could provide context to the secrets buried in her family's past. The next morning, under a sky washed clean by the night's rain, Priya made her way to the local historical society, a modest building located in the heart of Mysore. It was there she was to meet Rohan, the historian Aunt Geeta had recommended. Rohan proved to be a young man, perhaps only a few years older than Priya, with an earnest expression and eyes that sparkled with enthusiasm for his subject. He greeted Priya with a warm smile, offering a firm handshake that spoke of a keen mind and a respectful nature. As they sat down in his cluttered office, surrounded by books, maps, and various historical artifacts, Rohan listened intently as Priya explained her project and the discoveries she had made in the library. He was particularly intrigued by the mention of her great-grandfather's letter and its mysterious postscript. Well, the post-independence period was a time of great upheaval and change, Rohan began, his voice reflecting a deep reverence for the past. Many families here were caught between the old ways and the new possibilities. Secrets were often kept to protect family honor or to avoid political repercussions. He then pulled out a large, old map of Mysore from a drawer and spread it on the table between them. The map was detailed, showing the layout of the city and its surroundings from decades ago. He pointed to various landmarks, explaining their historical significance and their connection to prominent families, including Priya's. Your great-grandfather was quite a figure in the community, Rohan continued, his finger tracing the routes that Arjun Rajput would have taken from his mansion to the heart of the city. Not just a wealthy landowner, but a patron of the arts and an advocate for education. Any secret he chose to keep could have had multiple dimensions: political, personal, or financial. Rohan then shared tales from other families, drawing parallels that helped Priya see her own family's narrative in a broader historical context. Each story was a thread in the intricate tapestry of Mysore's history, woven together with strands of ambition, love, and betrayal. As the morning turned to afternoon, Rohan suggested they visit some of the locations mentioned in the diaries and on the map. Sometimes, being in the place where history happened helps you understand it better, he said, his eyes lighting up with the prospect of discovering something new. They visited the old market area where Priya's great-grandfather had conducted his business, the school he had helped found, and the temple where her ancestors had worshipped. Each place brought stories to life, making the people in Priya's diaries more than just names on a page. They were now real, connected to tangible places and legacies. As the day ended, Priya felt a deep sense of gratitude towards Rohan. His tales and insights had not only illuminated her path but had also deepened her connection to her hometown and its history. "I think I'm starting to see how the pieces fit together," Priya mused aloud as they walked back to the historical society. Rohan smiled, pleased. History is always waiting to be discovered, and every answer we find leads to new questions. Keep searching, Priya. The past has much to tell us, and perhaps, to teach us. With Rohan's help, Priya was ready to delve deeper into the secrets of the Sandalwood Mansion, armed with new tools and perspectives to uncover the truth hidden in the echoes of the past. Chapter 4: Midnight at the Library. The next few days were a blur of activity for Priya as she dove deeper into her family's history with Rohan's guidance. They spent hours in various archives and visited more landmarks, piecing together fragments of the past. Yet, the secret hinted at in her great-grandfather's letter remained elusive, just out of reach. This puzzle consumed her thoughts, pushing her to spend long evenings in the mansion's library, surrounded by the whispers of history. One evening, after a particularly long day of research, Priya found herself unable to sleep, her mind racing with theories and possibilities. Glancing at the clock, she noticed it was nearing midnight. The house was silent, the only sounds the distant calls of night birds and the soft ticking of the antique grandfather clock in the hallway. On impulse, she decided to return to the library, feeling an inexplicable pull towards the room that held so many answers. The library at midnight was a different world. The moonlight filtered through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the floor and bathing the room in a ghostly glow. Priya felt as though she was stepping into a realm where time stood still, where the night could unveil secrets hidden by the day. She walked directly to the heavy wooden chest where she had first discovered the old diaries and letters. Sitting on the floor, she opened it once again, her fingers tracing the aged paper as she carefully removed the contents. She spread the documents around her, forming a makeshift map of narratives. As she read through a diary from the 1950s, a small, folded piece of paper fell out, unnoticed in her previous examinations. Priya picked it up, her heart pounding with anticipation. Unfolding it carefully, she found it was a note written in her great-grandfather's hand, apparently penned in haste. The note was cryptic, mentioning a decision that would change the fortunes of the Rajput lineage forever, referring to a hidden compartment in the library where he had placed the key to our future. Intrigued and excited, Priya looked around the dimly lit room, her eyes scanning for any unusual features. She remembered Rohan's words about how physical spaces often held the memories and secrets of the past. With the note in hand, she examined the walls, the bookshelves, the fireplace, anywhere a hidden compartment might be concealed. After several tense minutes, her search led her to an imposing portrait of her great-grandfather that hung over the fireplace. The frame seemed slightly ajar. Hard in her throat, Priya reached out and gently nudged the portrait. It swung open silently, revealing a small, dusty niche behind it. Inside, there was an ornate wooden box. With trembling hands, Priya retrieved the box, setting it on a nearby table under the moonlit window. She opened it to find a collection of old papers and a smaller, metal box inside. The papers were land deeds and agreements, some dating back over a century, but it was the metal box that caught her attention. It required a key, which, to her frustration, was nowhere to be found. Sitting back on her heels, Priya felt both exhilarated and overwhelmed. She now held a part of the secret her great-grandfather had kept, yet its full understanding was still locked away. She knew that come morning, she would need Rohan's help once again, not just to find the key but to understand the implications of what this key to our future could truly mean for the Rajput family. As the first light of dawn began to seep into the library, Priya realized that her quest had only just begun. The answers she sought were close, yet so complex that they threatened to change her understanding of her heritage and her very identity. But she was ready to face whatever truth the light would reveal. Chapter 5: The Festival of Lights. As the days shortened and the air turned crisp with the onset of autumn, the city of Mysore began its preparations for the grand festival of Dasara, a 10-day celebration that lit up the city with colors, lights, and joy. The festival, rooted in mythology and royal traditions, was a spectacle of cultural pride and communal spirit. For Priya, this year's Dasara was not just a cultural event but a poignant moment in her personal journey, a chance to connect with her roots and the community, possibly unlocking more clues about her family's mysterious past. With the secret compartment's discovery still fresh in her mind, Priya was eager to share the excitement of the festival with Rohan, who had become not only a guide but a trusted confidant in her quest. As they walked through the vibrant streets, Rohan explained the historical significance of Dasara in Mysore, how it symbolized the victory of good over evil, and how it had been celebrated by the royal family and common folk alike for centuries. Dasara here is unique because it blends royal tradition with popular folklore, much like your family's story intertwines with the city's history, Rohan pointed out as they watched an elaborate procession winding through the thoroughfare. The procession was led by caparisoned elephants, followed by folk dancers, musicians, and floats depicting scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. As night fell, the city transformed under the glow of thousands of lights. Priya and Rohan made their way to the Mysore Palace, which was illuminated by nearly 100,000 bulbs, casting a magical glow that could be seen from miles away. The palace grounds were filled with families, tourists, and vendors, creating a bustling atmosphere that was infectious. "This is the perfect representation of community," Rohan remarked. "Everyone comes together, forgetting their worries and differences, united in celebration." Priya felt a deep connection to the people around her, seeing in their faces the same hopeful joy that her ancestors might have experienced during such festivals. As they enjoyed traditional sweets and watched the fireworks display, Priya shared more about her discoveries and her feelings of being caught between two worlds, the past and the present, her American upbringing and her Indian heritage. Rohan listened thoughtfully, then shared a perspective that struck a chord with her. Dasara, much like your journey, is about renewal and finding your inner strength. Maybe it's not just about uncovering old secrets, but also about forging new paths, just like these festivities renew our city every year. Inspired by Rohan's words, Priya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that understanding her family's past was not just about bringing dark secrets to light, but also about building on those foundations to make meaningful contributions to her community. The festival culminated in the renowned Dasara exhibition, where Priya and Rohan admired displays of art, handicraft, and heritage. Standing there among the exhibits, Priya felt a profound sense of belonging and a determination to not only solve the mysteries of her great-grandfather's past, but to also embrace and contribute to her cultural legacy. As the night drew to a close, Priya looked at the illuminated palace, the light reflecting in Rohan's eyes, and felt a deep gratitude for the journey she was on. The Festival of Lights had indeed brought light into her own quest, guiding her towards a future where she could honor her past while creating something new for herself and her family. Chapter 6: Legacy of Sandalwood. As the festival lights dimmed and the city of Mysore returned to its routine rhythm, Priya felt a change within herself. The discoveries and experiences of the past weeks had not only illuminated her family's history but had also rekindled a passion for her heritage that she hadn't realized was so profound. Now, with the secrets of the past slowly unraveling, she faced the ultimate challenge, deciding the future of the Sandalwood Mansion and its legacy. With the metal box still locked and its contents unknown, Priya knew that unlocking it could be the final piece of the puzzle. After several unsuccessful attempts to find the key among her great-grandfather's belongings, she and Rohan decided to consult a local craftsman who specialized in antique locks. The craftsman, intrigued by the challenge, managed to fashion a key that fit the intricate lock of the metal box. Inside the box, they found not only deeds and legal documents, but also a detailed journal kept by Priya's great-grandfather, Arjun Rajput. The journal outlined a visionary plan he had devised, which was far ahead of his time. It spoke of using the vast lands of the Rajput estate to create a community center and educational institute, focusing on sustainable agriculture and promoting local arts and crafts. This revelation was a stark contrast to the traditional image of wealth accumulation associated with landowning families of his era. Priya was deeply moved by her great-grandfather's foresight and his commitment to social welfare. It seemed the key to our future he had mentioned was not a literal key but a metaphorical one, a plan for the family's legacy to benefit the wider community. Inspired by this discovery, Priya discussed the idea with Aunt Geeta, who was supportive yet cautious. "It's a beautiful vision, Priya, but it requires a lot of work and commitment." "Are you sure you're ready for this?" her aunt asked. "I've never been sure of anything," Priya replied, her determination clear. "This isn't just about preserving our family's history, it's about making sure it continues to have a meaningful impact." With Rohan's help, Priya set about making her great-grandfather's vision a reality. They collaborated with local historians, educators, and agricultural experts to draft a plan that would transform the Sandalwood Mansion into a cultural and educational hub. Priya also reached out to the local community, inviting their input and involvement, ensuring that the project would truly serve the needs of the people. As months turned into a year, the Sandalwood Mansion gradually transformed. The old halls that once echoed with the whispers of past Rajputs now buzzed with the voices of children and adults alike, learning about sustainable farming techniques and participating in workshops on traditional crafts. The library was restored and open to the public, offering access to historical documents and resources on local history. On the anniversary of the project's initiation, the community gathered at the Sandalwood Mansion to celebrate its new life. Priya stood on the steps of her ancestral home, looking out at the faces of those who had contributed to this renewal. She felt a profound connection not just to her ancestors, but to the land and the people around her. "As we light these lamps tonight, let them symbolize the enduring spirit of the Rajput family and our commitment to contributing to our community's welfare," Priya announced, her voice steady and full of emotion. The crowd cheered, and as the night sky lit up with fireworks, Priya felt her great-grandfather's presence, as if he were nodding in approval at the new legacy of the Sandalwood Mansion. Through her journey, Priya had not only uncovered the mysteries of her past but had also paved the way for a future where the legacy of the Rajput family would continue to illuminate lives, much like the festival of lights that had inspired her path.